Hi, and welcome to CryptoBiography. I'm your host, Brandon Starr, and this is The Tip, Part 2. It's episode 181, and let's just go ahead and roll right into it. The details, other than Juan Palacios' abilities, were quickly confirmed. He was, in fact, Jimmy Porter's neighbor. The license plate on the expedition was run and the owner found. He was, as Rosalinda had suspected, bad news. He belonged to a gang, the Compton Vario 70s. His name was Rodolfo Pinzon. He also seemed to be the one who stabbed, or tried to stab, Juan Palacios. The other two who came out were also identified as members of the same gang. The driver could not be identified, though presumably would have also been a member of that gang. Rosalinda's team also determined that Juan Palacios' house was a little outside their territory. This hinted to Rosalinda that this was not some attempt to control their area. This was something else, probably something personal. She and her team, separately and together, watched and analyzed the video itself. There wasn't a frame that wasn't checked. Particularly, the wound itself had been checked. It seemed to be exactly what it was on first watching. Juan Palacios had been stabbed through his shirt deeply enough that when Rodolfo let go, the knife stayed in the wound. Even cleaned up as much as the data would allow, there wasn't a drop of blood to be seen. Not around the wound, not on his shirt, not on the knife. Rosalinda sent the video to a friend she had in the LAPD. She knew that it would be difficult to get any sort of crime prosecuted given how strange the video was, but she felt she had to. She presumed this would still give her some time to go by and see Juan Palacios for herself. Before doing that, she learned what she could about Juan. He was 31 years old, only a single younger sister living, Maria Palacios, 23 years old, who lived not far from Juan. Some checking told her that Maria lived inside the Compton Vario 70s territory. She had no proof yet, but she was starting to suspect that Maria might be the cause of the problems between Juan Palacios and Rodolfo Pinzon. She had eyes put on both Maria and Juan Palacios. She also looked for information on them. They'd both been born and lived in the same neighborhood for their entire lives. Their parents came from Venezuela before either of them were born. They were both deceased, having died in a fire about a decade ago. There had been no insurance or any real estate to pass on. Juan, being a little older and better established, had successfully rented a house for several years. Maria had partly fallen out with her brother and had lived with friends and barely made ends meet. Rosalinda decided to go talk with Juan directly. Her team confirmed to her when she was on the way that Juan was home. When she pulled up, she noticed that Jimmy was peeking out his window shades at her vehicle. No doubt he'll be happy we're following up, she thought. She couldn't help but think that Rodolfo Pinzon had parked in the exact spot she did. In her head, she ran through the scene she had reviewed so many times. Then she got out of her car and walked up to the house. She knocked on the door. In about 10 seconds, she heard someone who could only be Juan say, in Spanish, "Who is it?" "My name is Rosalinda Cruz. I'm here regarding the incident with Rodolfo Pinzon." "Are you with the police?" "No, I'm not with the government at all." "Then why do you care about Pinzon? Reporter?" "No, I'm with a group who are looking for people like you." There was a hesitation that told Rosalinda that Juan knew exactly what she was talking about. He clearly decided to bluff his way out, however. "Hispanic? Venezuelan?" She stifled a laugh. "With powers. Unusual powers." She heard a click and the door opened. Juan Palacios beckoned her in without another word. Inside, she saw that his rental was simply furnished and kept scrupulously clean, as she had been expecting, given that he was sweeping his walk in the video. He pointed to a recliner across from a sofa. She sat, though not deeply, but rather near the edge, as though she were sitting at a dining room chair. Her habits wouldn't allow her to relax that much in the presence of a stranger. He sat on the sofa and looked at her. "We've learned what happened with Rodolfo Pinzon last week." "I see. And we know what you can do." "Do you?" Yes. Then you know more than I do. What do you want, Rosalinda Cruz? Rosalinda smiled. I'm with a group of people who are protecting and learning more about a tiny population of people who have unusual abilities. Superpowers, if you like. So you want to take me to some government lab and poke my brain? As I said, we're not with the government. And I'm the last one who wants to poke brains. Meaning? She'd waited for that question. She focused for a moment. Then, over the course of a few seconds, she became completely transparent, as did everything she had on her. A bit of the recliner did as well. She did better when she was touching nothing but the floor, but the effect was still good. To his credit, Juan showed little outward signs of any reaction. He simply said, "Interesting." She returned to opacity. So yes, I'm one of you. Or you're one of us, more to the point, if you'll join us. What do I get for joining you? And what do you require of me? If you agree to non-invasive investigations, then those. If you have talents you can provide, we will make use of them. You make it sound like some military operation, or mercenary. Rosalinda nodded. I was in the military. My ability was extremely useful on occasion, though I was careful not to let even my own unit know what I could do. And that's another benefit, the one I actually found most helpful of all. Knowing there are others like me and being able to talk with them, discuss our situations, commiserate when needed. If I did provide my talents, as you say, this would be paid? Well paid. Juan's phone rang. He glanced down at it, then said, "Excuse me," and left the room. Rosalinda waited. Part of her wanted to listen in. Whatever he had seen had pulled him off of a conversation she knew he found interesting. Part of her was even considering going invisible and trying to get closer. But no, she was here to convince him. For that, trust had to be earned and given. She checked her own phone. She also texted her team to let her know everything was fine and that she didn't know when she would be finished. After a few minutes, Juan came back. He was sweating and looked like he was in distress. Rosalinda rose from her chair. "What's wrong, Mr. Palacios?" "My sister, Maria, she's missing. Her roommate doesn't know what happened to her, but she saw Rodolfo Pinzon. I think he has her." He looked Rosalinda in the eyes. "Miss Cruz, Maria dated Rodolfo for a while. She broke it off with him a couple of months ago. When I saw him hanging around her place, I knocked him to the ground. That's what the argument at my place was the other day. I may be able to make myself invulnerable, but Maria cannot. And since the police knew they were dating, I don't think they'll try too hard to figure out what happened with her. They'll just say that she's dating him again. But I know that's not true. She'd learned how dangerous he was. She wouldn't go back to him. If you can help me, then I'll be glad to join you." She stepped forward and put out her hand to shake. "You have my word, Mr. Palacios. We will get her back." And that's the episode for this week. If you have any comments or questions about this episode or previous episodes, cryptobiography@gmail.com, or hit us up on Facebook or Twitter. And thanks for listening. Words and music copyright 2020 CryptoBiography LLC, all rights reserved. Characters and events are fictional, fictionalized, or satirical.